Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Virgin Media Channel 927.
Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane. Insane in the membrane.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I am Mike Graham, and of course, it is that time of the week where we welcome into the studio for the first time Mr. Mike Porky Parry. And a very good morning to you, Mr. Parry. How the devil are you?
Yeah, very good morning, Mike. I'm in great shape. Thank you very much indeed. A few problems, which appeared in life.
We haven't got that long. We've only got like 45 minutes, so I'm not sure how many problems you can get through in that time.
Yeah, well, I can list a few of them, but really the issue which is most in front of my brain, or at the front of my brain, sparkling and effervescently reminding me of what, sport's all about.
Yes.
What are you laughing at?
Yeah, well, I'm just worried about you struggling with these long words with lots of syllables in them.
No. Of course, is Chelsea's victory at Manchester City, which was,
extraordinary.
Well, we've all said an extraordinary result, but it was an extraordinary game. I thought it was a great game.
Yeah.
Chelsea adopted a set of tactics tonight we haven't seen from them all season, and it's a good job that crossbars and posts are made of metal. Right. Otherwise, it'd be splintered into wooden.
Well, it's funny because I was just
planks
talking
and things.
I was talking about this. Speaking of planks, we were talking about this just before the show started,
nice.
but also with my son at the weekend because we were talking about the woodwork.
Right.
Because he said to me, "Why do they call it woodwork?" And I said, "Well, because the ball used to hit the woodwork, whether it was the post or the crossbar, because it used to be made of wood."
Absolutely.
And he said, "What's it made of now?" And do you know what? I wasn't actually sure because I wasn't sure if it was some kind of amalgam of metal or whether it was
metal.
Sort of a hard plastic, because you can buy lots of different kinds of goals now, can't you?
Well, you can if you're buying a temporary goal to put in your back garden for your kids to play football with. But when you go to a football ground, the posts are made of metal.
Are they?
Of course they are.
What sort of metal?
Iron. It's forged and bent specifically.
Not stainless steel or something.
No. Into the shape of a crossbar and two posts, 8 feet high and 8 yards wide.
Because there have been days and probably now still in amateur football where somebody hits the crossbar and the crossbar actually collapses on top.
Oh yeah, that's happened plenty of times, and there are still plenty of goalposts out there and playing fields made of wood.
Yeah.
Because A, it's much cheaper, and B, you only got to nail 3 bits of wood together and not get it mulled. But I don't know why we're talking about goals anyway, because the point is, I thought it was a spectacular performance tonight from Chelsea. Does that mean they can go on and take the title? Who knows? But
Jose says not. He says they're not trying to.
I know, but he always says that. He also said after the game, I don't know if you caught this, that actually it was the team masseur who gave the final team talk.
Yeah, apparently he's a Scotsman.
A Scotsman, and he said I couldn't understand what he was saying, so I just let him get on with it, and he was, jabbering away in Scotland. Like, remarkable man, Jose. And I'm like you, I'm a big fan of Jose's because he lights football up. And, you and I are evocative people. We've worked in the industry of journalism, which is expressionism, communication, outlining ideas and descriptions and all that. And Jose's all of that.
And
he's all
saying
of that.
things that have some impact as well. And the thing about Jose is as we knew he would, he's lit up the Premier League once again. And but you stop that. It's not a loving. All right? It's not. They reckon that every time I talk about Jose, it's some kind of loving.
Well,
it's not about that.
You can include
me. Narrow-minded people here.
You can include me in that club now because I think he's excellent for football and. Mr. Pellegrini, when you look at him and see him speak, he looks like he does look actually like one of those bloodhounds.
I like him as well, though.
I quite like him, but he's very neutral. I mean, he doesn't.
Well, he's bookish, isn't he? He's not so mischievous as Jose. Jose's a mischievous kind of guy.
Yeah, of course he is. Yeah,
he's got a kind of glint in his eye.
Yeah.
I mean, after last week when he said about when Tim Sherwood said, the Manchester City the best team on the planet, and he went, oh well, maybe for him the planet is England.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll find out, and it's just a very nice put down. It's not mean and nasty and horrible. It's not like some of the things you say to me.
No. Well, that's all said in jest, though. You know that, Mike. And of course, with the revival now of the European season coming along, and I've already predicted, I think all 4 clubs will get into the next round of the Champions League. I mean, that includes getting past Barcelona in one case, obviously. Yeah. But I can see that happening now. But the Chelsea situation's remarkable because if that wasn't Jose, that Chelsea team might have fallen apart by now, wouldn't it?
No, I agree. And it's the first time, actually, because, I mean, they've played a lot of, what you might describe as mediocre games this season, but they've always somehow managed to win. And the only reason they're where they are is because of Jose, in the same way that, obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson somehow grabbed Manchester United and brought them up to the top of the league last season. You're right. Without Jose or without Sir Alex, as we're seeing with Manchester United now, they're not the same team.
They couldn't get past Everton, of course. Everton's first victory of this season was Chelsea at home 1-0. Now, I'm taking you Spurs on Sunday as well.
That's
How
right,
are you going to behave yourself there?
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, good. That's some good friends.
I'm thinking, actually, because it seems to be the form at the moment, I'm wondering, I thought I'd ask you advice on this. What do you think if I put my hair in a ponytail for that?
For what reason?
Hey?
For what reason?
Well, because footballers now, a lot more and more
What
footballers
a
are wearing their
load
hair
of
in a
baloney,
ponytail.
honestly.
And the new, the prospective owner of Leeds apparently has a ponytail from time to time.
Really?
Massimo Cellini.
Well, it was a battle of two. Have you just said that? A battle of two ponytails in the Andy Carroll situation?
No, but I mean, in the Andy Carroll there was. It was Chico, wasn't it? Chico
right.
Flores and Andy Carroll.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought.
No, Mike, that would be the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. If you turn up with a ponytail, I'm not taking you.
Really?
I'll leave you at Liverpool Street Station in London. The people who've invited us are sophisticated people. Don't want to see some yobbo wandering in there with a.
It's not a yobbo's thing. It's a fashionable thing.
It's not. It's ludicrous. A ponytail on a man is utterly ludicrous.
So if Andy Carroll was to go to Tottenham, they wouldn't allow him into the players' lounge because he's wearing a ponytail. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. He's a footballer and there's special rules for footballers. But ordinary people like yourself, middle-aged men, I mean, blimey, I get a repeated complaint from senior management here at TalkSport about your hairstyle anyway. Every time I see somebody, they say, has he had his hair cut yet? Or is he getting it cut? Or something like that.
Well, maybe I'll get it cut then.
Well, it's up to you, but just don't turn up in a ponytail, Mike. That would embarrass me, beyond redemption.
Yeah, it would embarrass you. What, the man who was chanted at by the Spurs fans the last time he was there, you're getting sacked in the morning. That's how you would be embarrassed by me turning up with a ponytail.
I would, yes, because that was a misunderstanding. But anyway, perhaps we should talk about somebody who's less fortunate than us in the football world, and that's old Joe Kinnear.
Well, let's talk about Andy Carroll first, because...
Andy Carroll, sure.
Don't forget, he's getting his red card examined, isn't he, later on today? And you seem to think that he should have it rescinded.
No, I don't. No, not at all. I think that was a red card, straight and proper.
Why?
For the intent of what he did.
His arm was kind of flailing around, wasn't
That's
it?
what I'm saying.
That's the way he plays. It's his style of play. He wasn't trying to hit Chico.
He was like a wrecking ball. He decided, almost like a ballerina, doing a pirouette. He went round with his arms out. He's a very big man. There was always a danger that one of those outstretched arms was going to hit the player next to him.
When you do a pirouette, normally their arms are straight up in the air, aren't they?
Not always. Oh,
you're a ballet expert.
Yeah, I am. Well, I know more about ballet than you do, pal.
You've never been to the ballet?
Oh, yeah, in Moscow.
Oh, yeah, who did you see there?
Somebody,
The prima ballerina's name was?
Well, I have no idea who it was.
Oh.
Because it was in Russian. Right. And I don't speak Russian, actually.
Really?
I mean,
what's the Chelsea owner's name?
Chelsea?
Yeah, what's the Chelsea owner's name?
Komrad Abramovich.
Yeah, so you know his name.
Yeah.
But why don't you know the name of the ballerina?
Well, I probably knew it at the time, but I don't know.
What were they performing?
Oh, like the Nutcracker Suite or something.
Oh, really? How convenient. One you'd heard of. Oh, well, never mind. All right, we'll gloss over that.
Could have been Swan Lake.
We'll gloss over that. I actually have, because I knew that you were going to be kind of on the side of the referee on this one.
Yes.
I wanted to study it, so I studied it a bit more and I watched it over and over and over again. I actually don't think it was a red card.
Of course it was a red card. The thing is,
yellow would have been fine.
The defence is, he was shaking a man off his back who'd climbed upon him. They both went up in a tussle. They came down. It was then... read Graham Poll in yesterday's Daily Mail. He said it was the intent, and the referee was seeing the intent in the eyes of the man as he went looking for, to strike an opponent, and it was for that he got sent off. And
it's a shame, though. He did have a great game, didn't he? He was finally doing for West Ham what I suppose Sam Allardyce said he was going to do.
Magic partnership with Kevin Nolan, isn't it? Get up, put it down, Nolan finishes it off.
It's not exactly what you might call, people talk an awful lot about, the way West Ham play and the beautiful football and all that. It's a bit Route 1, isn't it?
No, I don't care about that. What's Route 1?
I don't care about it, but it just makes me laugh when West Ham fans talk about, we always want to play beautiful football. Yeah. It's like, really? Yeah. When was the last time you did that then?
Well, probably in the era of Bobby Moore and Martin Pitts and Jeff Hurst. But, these footballing snobs going about the long ball game. A long ball game means that somebody can accurately pass a ball over a longer distance than a short ball. Yeah. There's not what's wrong with that.
And they can break open a defence and score a goal.
I mean, you could actually say Paul Scholes then, in that case, was a long ball merchant because he was just booting it upfield. The point is, Paul Scholes could drop a ball on a forward's feet from 60 or 70 yards away. Is that the long ball? Is that supposed to be derogatory?
The ticky-tacky thing's being exposed a bit by Swansea, isn't it, at the moment? Swansea, who play all the way, always play out of defence and never actually attack very quickly. Now having a terrible time.
What a transformation in fortunes for Michael Laudrup.
I know.
This time last year he was being mooted as the new Manchester United manager.
And Real Madrid was supposedly after him.
And Real Madrid was supposed to be chasing him, absolutely right. And now there's all speculation and rumour in Wales that he's going to be asked to leave the club.
Yeah.
I mean, astonishing.
I know, it's all gone very
Astonishing
badly
how
wrong.
your fortunes can change in just 12 months. Look at you, Mike. 12 months ago, you had a glittering career. Now you still have a glittering career. And in 12 months' time, you might have a glittering career.
Yeah.
Life doesn't change much for you, but it does for
Yeah.
Michael Laudrup.
Well, no, my life changes constantly because there's this short, a bearded bloke who keeps coming in and out of my life, occasionally
To
messing
improve
it up.
it.
Occasionally improving it, occasionally making it worse. You never know how long it's going to be for.
I don't think so.
Anyway, how about
Yeah.
Joe Kinnear? He comes into
Well,
people's lives in
unbelievable.
football clubs. I mean, Simon was saying he came into Oxford, bought a load of players and then just left.
I heard him say that 15 years ago. I didn't even know Joe Kinnear had ever been to Oxford. He certainly hasn't been to Oxford University, has he?
But I'm puzzled as to what he actually did. He was there for 8 months. He didn't appear to buy any players at all.
I think it was one lone player he arranged,
yeah.
did he?
And of course, famously he said, I can pick up the phone and talk to anybody, including Sir Alex Ferguson.
That's right, yeah.
Which I see, by the way, Randy Mullenstein's now starting to say that as well.
Oh, is he?
So Alex Ferguson's phone's going to be ringing a lot. Yeah, he's saying, I can give Sir Alex a ring any time if I need a bit of help. I'm not under any
Well,
pressure.
he was his coach, wasn't he?
Yeah, I know, but he's now at Fulham, right? And
Yeah.
he's saying, I'm not under any pressure, if I need any help. So Sir Alex is going to be getting a few phone calls, I think, over the next few days. And Joe's going to be on the phone saying, where can I go next?
Yeah. I mean, the Joe Kinnear thing, I don't want to be overcritical of Joe Kinnear because he did establish a kind of style at Wimbledon, which became famous, didn't it? The Crazy Gang and all that kind of stuff. And as Wimbledon was my nearest Premier League club in those days, it's now Crystal Palace, which I also took you to.
Yes. By the way, I should say to you that, and I will say this to the guys at Tottenham, every game I go to with you regarding Everton, Everton have not won yet.
Drew at Palace, didn't we?
Drew at Palace, lost at Brentford.
Last
time we went to Palace, it was a draw.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think
so.
That'll
It may be a bit of a hex.
I think I'll turn around on Sunday because I do on Sunday see Everton in the ascendancy now. Terrible results against Liverpool, obviously, but another great comeback against Aston Villa, which really was a comeback of massive proportions. I thought we were down and out, and after 70 minutes, I was tracking the game. I was down on the coast actually last week, but I was tracking the game and I thought, this is it. We're not going to get it back now in the last 20 minutes. So I was absolutely thrilled to see that turn around. Showed a lot of character from the players, and Mirallas has turned out to be a fantastic footballer, and we're glad. But getting back to Joe Kinnear, so at Wimbledon he was, he was part of what Wimbledon were in those days, and he suited it fine. But I don't think he's suited anywhere else since.
No.
And the thing about Newcastle is, the reason why it went wrong for him there is because Newcastle is a very... What's the word I'm looking for, Mike? It's a loosely run club in terms of it doesn't seem to have any consistent pattern of management. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I say management, I mean management with a big M. I don't mean just football manager.
Well,
I mean the way the club is handled.
It strikes me that Mike Ashley's a guy who's sort of interested in it from time to time and
Yeah.
does certain things and then lets it run for a while and then does something else. Like suddenly brought Joe Kinnear in and then maybe left him to do whatever he was going to do for a while.
He's such a brilliant businessman,
Yeah.
Mike Ashley. I read recently about some deal in which he bought a small percentage of shares in a big retail chain. I can't remember which one it was. I'm not going to say it was Debenhams or something. I'm not sure which one it was. But he only hung on to this holding for about 6 weeks before he made about £4 million on it because he'd got in, the market suddenly got excited that this was the in company, and he's a brilliant, brilliant businessman. And you always wonder why men who can make millions, or in his case billions, in business, are unable to transfer that success into... Roman Abramovich has done, hasn't he?
We see it more often than not because these guys expect nobody to question what they do.
Yeah.
And once people do start questioning, particularly the fans, like they are at Cardiff, like they are at Hull City, and like they do at Newcastle, it's all a bit of a nightmare. But hopefully, the one thing that I suppose Alan Pardew can now be grateful for is that he's now not going to have to give his job up to Joe Kinnear.
Well, I don't think he ever thought he was going to, did he? Did he?
Well, there was
really?
thoughts that Joe Kinnear was kind of, the sleeping or the Trojan horse or something coming in, and he was going to get rid of Pardew and he was going to take over.
Yeah, but I don't think that could ever have happened for two reasons. Joe Kinnear lost all his credibility on the day he was appointed due to our very own Andy Goldstein and Bobby Gould, wasn't it, that night?
And Johan Kebab.
And yeah, that's right. And they talked to him, and he illustrated a sort of serious lack of grasp of the job, didn't he, at the time, And since then, it's been downhill for him. And he turned up the occasional game in his suit and tie and all that. But, I've still got friends on Tyneside who were utterly mystified as to why he was brought in.
Yeah.
And by the way, the statement of him going tonight is extraordinary. 29 words, which basically say Newcastle United confirm that Joe Kinnear has left the club. the club will make no further comment. Bang, he's gone. He's a non-person.
Yeah, I know. Interesting stuff. Mike Parry and myself, Mike Graham, will be back with lots more. Coming up next on TalkSport. This is TalkSport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes together, and there's an iTunes podcast that goes out, of course, every Tuesday and Friday. Although we seem to be having a bit of a problem with the one on Friday.
I was going to say, has Friday gone out yet?
Well, it hasn't yet, no,
Okay.
because I don't know what's going on at iTunes. Apparently,
Right.
If you know anything about these things, the Android version is available.
Android?
Android meaning if you haven't got an iPhone.
What?
Which is what you've got. You haven't got an iPhone, have you?
I've got a Samsung.
Yeah, well, that's an Android, isn't it?
I don't know what an Android is.
Well, it means that you can't be a member of iTunes. You can't download podcasts from iTunes.
Ooh, that's not much good, is it?
So people who can download iTunes and a podcast at the moment can't get Friday's one. But we'll try and get it up as soon as we possibly can. There's some kind of problem with iTunes. Don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But it's available. There's loads of other ones there. So please go to iTunes and have a look at them. But meanwhile, let's talk about your car, because I see you've had another bit of problem with your car wheels. I've never heard of a brand new car having so many difficulties.
Do you know, this is amazing. So I'm driving along on a dual carriageway, and actually I passed a hearse. I want to talk to you about that in a minute.
You're not
as well.
supposed to do that.
Well,
you're not meant to overtake hearses.
Well, you had to, because it's a dual carriageway, and it would have been a queue 15 miles long.
What do you mean you had to?
Well, because you can't just stay behind a cortege, can you? That's travelling at 35 miles an hour.
Why not?
What do you mean cortege?
Cortege.
Yes, cortege. Because
there's some kind of affliction.
No, because you can't.
No, when you're travelling behind a funeral.
But I didn't know how long it was going to go on for, did I?
Well, I'm sorry.
Busy old world.
Well, I mean, the guy's dead. You should at least give the guy, a little respect.
How do you know it was a man?
Well, whoever it is.
Yeah, exactly,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. But the point is, you don't go flashing.
X-ray
"No,
eyes.
look, terribly sorry. I'm in a bit of a hurry here."
Well, I did, do the old Hail
Did you
Mary.
not start honking them or something?
No. I did the old Hail Mary as I passed. But I'll tell you
about... You crossed yourself?
Yeah. I always do. I'm very respectful of the dead. If I'm standing on a pavement and a funeral cortege goes past...
Cortege.
It's called a cortege.
Yes, cortege, not cortege.
I always take my hat off if I've got a hat on.
But you don't wear a hat.
No, I don't wear a hat, no. If I did wear a hat, I would take my hat off. Yeah.
Right. Oh, well, that's good. So how do you show your appreciation then?
As a kid...
Do you, tip your forelock or something?
I stand there and bow my head.
Do you?
But as a kid, I was told by my mum and dad, whenever you see a funeral, you take your cap off, your school cap. So were you told
that's
that?
fair enough.
You told that? Well, why weren't you told that?
Well, I have no idea. We didn't talk about funerals
perhaps
much.
your parents didn't have as much respect for the dead as my parents did.
Well, I didn't live in a place where there were constantly funerals going by. Were you in a crematorium or something?
No, not in a crematorium. But you see, look, you shouldn't be laughing. This is a serious business.
All right,
anyway,
all right.
So there I am on the carriageway, just overtaking this funeral cortege, and... Right. And all of a sudden, a message comes up on the dashboard.
Right.
Which is the dashboard, isn't it?
It is,
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And
sometimes these new cars are called computerised. They're a bit complicated, aren't they?
They're very complicated.
I was driving one this morning. I got in it and it said hello.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I said goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want you to say hello and goodbye to me. I just want you to get me from A to B.
That's very odd. But anyway, it says check tyre pressure, tyre pressure low or something like that. So
you had that warning the last time, didn't you?
Well,
when
this
you
is
went
it.
over the champagne
This is
bottle.
it. Now, what happened last time was I hit that champagne bottle. It must have knocked the valve on the rear wheel on the driver's side.
Right.
Because when I later went to Quick Fit...
I thought the guy fixed it for you,
Did a
didn't
brilliant job, yeah, and didn't even charge me for it. And he said it was just a dodgy valve and all that kind of blew it. So I thought, I know what this is. It's that dodgy valve. Anyway, I went to the same Quick Fit place in Surrey.
So it wasn't. So once again, it wasn't a flat tyre then.
Well, it said tyre pressure, didn't it? Down.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is you weren't concerned that you were driving at high speed with a flat tyre.
Well, I stopped to have a look.
All right.
Because when you get a message saying that your tyre pressure is going down, you think that's a flat tyre.
So did the funeral cortege overtake you?
It did, actually, yeah. It did. Cause
so
I
you had to pass them twice?
Yeah, I did, yeah. No, I did, funny enough, yeah. And I had to pull into a parking lay-by thing. But anyway, the point of my story is that I go to the Quick Fit fitter, and the same guy, really nice chap, who did it last time, I said, look, it's probably that valve, isn't it?
So you didn't accuse him of making a bodge job?
Not at all, no. So anyway, he checked all four tyres with one of those things that you stick in, and read the pressure on. And it was the...
A gauge?
A gauge, thank you, yeah. And it was the tyre on the back on the opposite side. So it was on the passenger side.
Oh, so it was a different tyre?
Different tyre. So he said this is the one. He said this is down 8 points or something. I think it should be 32 and this was down to 24. And I said, why's that happened then? He said, you've probably got a nail in it. I said, a nail? I said, you don't pick up nails on roads these days, do you? I said, that's...
Well, you can.
That went out
you
30
can drive
or 40
over
years
anything,
ago.
I suppose.
Anyway, he said, well, we'll have a look. So jacked the car up, took the wheel off. Sure enough, not a nail, but a pin was in the middle of the tyre.
Pin?
A pin.
Well, like a drawing pin.
Well, I tell you, it took him ages to get it out with a pair of pliers and all that, and it ended up, it was no more than half an inch long, and it was the broken off bit of a
Well, you
screw.
mean like a sort of a panel pin?
No, a screw.
Okay.
It looked like a pin to start off with, but a very small screw.
Okay.
And the second half of it, not with a head on it. You see what I mean?
Right.
And I said, that's astonishing. And I said, and isn't it amazing the technology in cars these days that can detect that your tyre's actually going down? It's brilliant, isn't it? You know, you
Well, I
say some
suppose so.
technology's car's talking to you, but to get a message that you... Anyway, point of my story is, he then
Well,
says...
you're lucky it didn't blow out, I suppose.
Well, I suppose I am. So I said, right, well, I'll have a new tyre. He said, you don't need a new tyre. I'll plug this for you. I said, oh, what do you do? So he takes it off and he drills a bigger hole where the tiny hole is so that he can then get his plug pushed through and sealed with glue, you know, and all kinds of stuff. Easy, 25 quid. And he said...
Well, let's hope that's the end of it, though.
Well, you would hope so. But anyway...
But it sounds like you're going to be driving around this car and it's going to be giving you these kind of warnings all the time, because if you're going to get loads of stuff in the tyre, aren't you?
I don't know.
Where have you been driving, anyway?
Sorry?
Where have you been driving to pick up all this stuff?
This is on the A3, which links the coast to Surrey, doesn't it? You know, so... But anyway, so...
Yeah, but I mean, where do you think you got the pin, though, or the screw?
Well, I don't know. What do you think? I've got microscopic eyes. And I said, oh, there's a pin up there, and I'll drive over it. It was so tiny, I couldn't believe it got into the tyre.
Yeah, but if you drive over a nail and it's lying flat on the road,
yes,
then why would it puncture your tyre? It would surely have to be sitting upright.
No, I asked him this. He said, because it immediately, it's like you stepping on a rake in the garden. You see what I mean? Step on the rake, come, look, smash you in the face, okay? That's why I
don't step on rakes.
Exactly. Although your face looks as though you have done several times during your life.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what a nail or a pin does. It leaps up straight into the tyre.
Oh, I see. Okay.
He told me this, and I said, that's very interesting. Thank you very much indeed.
But that could happen every time you drive around, then, really, surely.
Well,
you're more lucky that you don't get that happening again.
What I can't understand is I had like 4 Jaguars over 10 years, and I never had a single puncture. And I can't remember last time I had a puncture.
I think this car's got... I mean, it's got the hex on it, this car, hasn't it?
No.
There's something wrong.
No.
I don't know whether you're a superstitious person like that guy from Leeds who doesn't believe in the number 17.
I think it's all right. Anyway, look, I've got to get round to telling you about this funeral cortege, right? Because...
Well, don't worry about monopolising the show or anything. This is a long story that so far is going nowhere.
No. Let me just tell you.
Well, say something interesting, then.
I'm going to. So as I got past the cortege, and I pulled back in, I look in my mirror, and I see the driver of this hearse is having a right old laugh and shout with his mate who's sitting in the, the left-hand seat. Hey?
Were they laughing at you?
No, they weren't laughing at me at all. They were having...
How do you know?
What would they be laughing at me for?
Well, maybe they wondered who was driving your car. They could just
rubbish.
see the little white top of a head. They thought it was a kid driving it.
No. And anyway, I'm thinking, that is rather disrespectful. There's the driver. I mean, what I'm saying is, I don't think hearse drivers should be allowed to smile, do you?
Well, they shouldn't really be on a motorway, should they?
Well, it wasn't a motorway, it was a dual carriageway.
Well, they shouldn't be on a dual carriageway either. They should surely be only driving at like 15, 20 miles an hour on slow roads. How far will they go? Were they taking this character?
I've no idea. I mean,
was it a long-distance funeral?
I've no idea. How should I know? He didn't have long-distance funeral written on the side of the hearse, so...
It's a bit odd, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. Supposing the coffin had arrived on a boat in Portsmouth or something like that, and the funeral was nearer to the person's home in London or something like that.
Well, then they should transport it in a carriage other than a hearse, I would say, until they have to have the official funeral cortege.
Well, hang on, don't you remember Diana's funeral? Yeah, they drove her 120 miles.
Yeah, well, there's a bit of an exception.
No, it's not.
Anyway, we've got to stop now. Yeah. We'll pick this up in a minute. Porky Parry and his rather odd story about the funeral. And Mike Graham, will be back next.
Talk Sport. On air, online and on TV at Freeview Channel 723.
This is Talk Sport Extra Time. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. We are the two Mikes. I'll tell you something weird that happened to me at the weekend. Right?
Yeah.
I was outside.
What's that music, by the way?
That's the X-Files.
X-Files. I've never seen the X-Files.
You've never seen the X-Files?
No.
It's a show about investigators who investigate kind of alien problems. Really.
Right.
It's a bit like the FBI, except they're a secret FBI.
Okay. And do they ever find any aliens?
Well, yeah, all the time.
What, you've seen aliens on the show?
Yeah.
What do they look like?
Well, it depends. You know, not all aliens look the same.
Right, okay.
But they investigate sort of strange happenings, basically.
Is it a sort of Men in Black type thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
got it,
kind
yeah.
of. Gillian
Yeah.
Anderson. Don't you remember Gillian Anderson?
Yes, of course I do, yeah, but I never got round to seeing it. the
David,
other guy was David
Duchovny.
Duchovny, that's
Yeah.
right, I remember him,
It was
yeah.
a very successful show.
Okay.
Well, you spent so much time in front of your TV, I'm surprised you never saw it.
No, I never saw it, no. I just, they're a bit weird, those things. Anyway, go on, you're telling
Yeah,
me.
no, well, I was going to say, I mean, I'm not a big believer in UFOs as such, because most things can be explained. But I saw a very odd thing the other night. I was out, it was probably about, I was waiting up to watch the Super Bowl, so it would have been around about 11 o'clock or something before it all started. And on the particular part of Sussex...
Is this down at your place in where?
In Sussex,
Sussex,
yeah.
yeah.
And it's on the kind of flight path sometimes to Gatwick, right? So you see quite a lot of planes sometimes flying, sort of south to north, because if they're coming back from Europe, that's the way they come in. And planes you can always see are quite high in the sky, and it was quite clear. There was a lot of stars around, and they're still flying at about 30,000 feet at that point. So you don't hear the plane, but you see the flashing lights, and you can tell it's a plane.
Yeah.
In the same way that
Usually when you see things in the sky with flashing lights, that is an aeroplane, actually, Mike.
Well, not necessarily, because sometimes you
what
can see
else is there?
satellites. You can see satellites, and they move in a different way.
satellites.
Yes, you can.
You
They
can't.
move in a different way. They move in a straight line.
Nonsense.
And
Satellites
they don't
are-
have red and green flashing lights. on.
Satellites are thousands of miles up in the
Yeah,
sky.
but you can see satellite. Have you never seen satellite?
No, of course not.
You see, but at that time of night, you're probably so pie-eyed, you can't see
What?
anything.
Are you mad?
The point is, right, anyway, so the next thing that I saw was much lower in the sky, two sets of lights, which looked as though they would belong maybe on a smaller plane, but a plane, because of the height of it, that you would hear. And I concluded that it might have been a helicopter, because there were two helicopters sort of flying in formation. That's not that unusual.
Yeah.
But the strange thing was there was no noise coming out of them. Absolutely no noise. And it was almost as though, they have these stealth helicopters that can fly with the
Yes.
silencers on. I know they have those in the military.
Yes.
And the military, obviously, down in southern England is never that far away. And they could have been flying maybe down to Wiltshire, down where I used to live, down to near Salisbury Plain, where a lot of weird things used to go on.
Oh, yeah.
But it just struck me as really odd. If I was more, shall we say, suggestible, I might have gone mad and said, oh, look, I've seen two UFOs, because they're flying in formation and they're much lower than a plane.
Well, what do you think
They
you
look-
did see?
I think it was two stealth helicopters that I shouldn't have seen.
Where
It
did
was-
these stealth helicopters come from?
Well, I think they were flying towards Salisbury Plain, where all the army stuff goes
Yeah.
on, secret army stuff. Or they could have been coming from the secret SAS base in London, which they set up for the Olympics. I mean, who knows?
Well, they could have been coming from Biggin Hill.
Biggin Hill, yeah, could have been.
Biggin Hill's round there somewhere.
It's somewhere around there, but Biggin Hill's not an Air Force base, is it?
Well, it's a base, isn't it?
No, it's in Biggin Hill where they have air shows.
Yeah, but it's got a runway, so the
Well, you don't need a runway if it's a helicopter, do you?
well, you need some form of landing pad, don't you? And that's what you have.
Well, you take a helicopter up from anywhere.
Yes, you can, but if it's a stealth helicopter, then it's not going to be parked in somebody's backyard,
Well,
is
it
it?
might have come off a ship for all I know.
No.
I don't
It's-
even know if it was a stealth helicopter. It's just my
It's going
suggestion.
to be parked in a proper aviation type location,
No,
which is what Biggin Hill
I
is.
don't think so. If it's a stealth helicopter, they don't really
Yeah.
want to see it, do they? What's the point of calling it a stealth
So,
helicopter?
so where do you think they keep these then? In somebody's garage down the
Well,
bottom of the road or something?
no, but they keep them in a secret location. That's my point.
Yeah, but
That's
that
why they
secret
fly them at
location
night.
is going to be on an airfield somewhere, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't have thought so.
Of course it is, because you need airfield facilities, like refuelling, like mechanics to service
Right.
these
Well,
things.
Biggin Hill's not the
Like-
place for that.
Like spares and parts. How do you know it's not? Have you ever been to Biggin
Yeah,
Hill?
I have been to Biggin
Yeah,
Hill.
I've
That's where
been
they
to
have air
Biggin Hill.
shows.
Yeah, I've been to
That's
Biggin
where
Hill.
they have air
I've
shows.
flown into Biggin Hill
When?
from Cardiff. Yeah, I have.
Why?
Because we did the FA Cup final in Cardiff there one year. And we
Oh,
had
what?
to,
So
we had
you
to
flew?
get
What?
back.
You mean on a commercial plane?
Yeah, well, a hired plane, obviously. Yeah,
but it's an airfield.
Yeah, it's an airfield.
Yeah,
That's
but
what I'm
it's not
saying.
a place where they have secret,
How do you know?
military installations.
Rubbish. If it's secret, you wouldn't know anyway. So
No,
you're
of course.
talking absolute garbage.
That's why it wouldn't be at Biggin Hill.
You're saying, they can't have secret
Well,
planes.
well,
If
listen,
they're secret,
I'm
you
really
don't know
sorry
about
I've
it anyway.
upset you with my rather interesting story. I mean, you get to talk bang on about 10 minutes or more about your poxy car because it's got another non-puncture.
You
and
asked
it's
me
another
about it.
fascinating story about your visit to QuickFit.
You
I
asked
tell you
me- asked
something
me about
that
it.
might potentially be, much more interesting about possible UFOs or possible
Load
stealth
of
helicopters.
gobbledygook.
And you don't even want to know.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm just rather dismissive of you staggering around with a glass in your hand because obviously you were preparing to
I
get
didn't have a glass in my hand at the time, actually.
tuned up for the Super Bowl. Yeah, and you're looking up in the air and seeing flashing lights.
Yeah.
Well, for all I know, Mike, you might have been lying horizontal on the ground after banging your head
Absolute
after
rubbish.
falling over.
No, it's not true. Not true.
you know.
Anyway, did you enjoy the Super Bowl? Did you watch the Super Bowl?
No, I didn't know. Who
Why
won?
not?
Who won?
Who won?
Yes.
Well, the Denver Broncos were supposed to win. It was actually won by the Seattle Seahawks.
Well, there you go. You see. I'm sorry. even when I was in America and, we'd have some parties on Sunday afternoon and all that, and you were always sneaking off to look at the football and all that, I haven't got the slightest interest in American football at all. I quite like watching, a quarterback, throwing, but that's all American football is to me. It's one bloke who throws it to another guy who catches it and then doesn't even have to touch it down.
Well,
as long as
there's a lot more to it than that.
As long as he's over the line, as long as he's over the line, he scores, doesn't he? But as long as his feet are over the line, he scores.
Yeah, that's right.
When do they ever kick through the gridiron? What's that for?
The gridiron?
Yeah.
What do you mean, the post?
Yes.
That's not the gridiron.
That's gridiron.
No, they call it. Some people, ignorant people, call it gridiron. They used to call it gridiron when it first started being shown in this country, but nobody in America calls it gridiron.
Yeah.
And they certainly don't call the goal a gridiron. It's a goal.
When do they put the ball through the goal?
They shoot for the extra point once they've got a touchdown, but they can also punt if they wish at any time during the game. Like if you run possession of the ball and you decide that you want to try and get 3 points, then you kick for goal. In the same way as you do in rugby.
Yeah.
That's why so many English players used to be hired to go. English footballers used to be hired to be kickers.
But you don't see that very often, do you?
Quite a lot, yeah.
Oh, I don't see it very often.
Well, you don't watch it very often.
No, I don't. That's true. So
that's why you don't see it very often.
I don't see it very often.
Now, let's talk a bit more about an American story, though, because
then.
I believe that you finally went to see The Wolfman of Wall Street.
I did. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant film, honestly. Rates alongside Top Gun as one of the all-time greats, in my view.
That is such a ridiculous statement.
No, it's not.
Well, anybody that puts Top Gun and some of the best films ever made in the same sentence.
Top Gun was on the other night. I don't know what I was doing. I was just shuffling around.
Yeah, it was on the other night because I suggested you'd have trouble choosing between Match of the Day and Top Gun.
It wasn't the night Match of the Day was on.
Do you never sometimes watch it and think, actually, this is not as good as I thought it was?
No, not at all. Every time I see it, it gets better.
Because there's a movie that I did that once with. There was a movie that came out in the 80s called Body Double, which was quite a violent film, and it was directed by that guy who Brian De Palma, who did The Untouchables and all that. Quite liked a lot of bloodthirsty. And Melanie Griffith was in it, and it was what I thought was a really, really great sort of murder mystery.
What was it called?
It was called Body Double.
Oh, I see.
And I got this new girlfriend some years later.
Yeah.
And I said, this is a great
film. Do you ever have any children with her?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say. It's my private. Why do you have to ask me these questions about my private life?
Because it's very unusual for you not to enter into a romance and produce a couple of children
out of it
and leave them littered all over the world.
Well, unlike you, I've had quite a lot of girlfriends in my life. If I had children, if I had children with all of them, I'd have about 500 of them. Anyway, listen. Here's the point. I said to her, "This is a great film. We're going to watch this." And she was a bit younger than me, and we started watching it. And as we were watching it, I could see that she wasn't very impressed by this at all because, clearly not only was it quite an old film, but actually it wasn't very good either.
Right.
And I must admit, having watched it, in a kind of different setting from when it first came out, I suddenly thought, actually, this is actually not very good. It's rubbish, absolute rubbish. And I would have thought at some point you'd recognise that about Top Gun.
No, Top Gun's a great film. Getting back to Wolf of Wall Street, right, at the end, I sympathise totally with the
You're not going to tell me what happens.
Well,
of course, the people haven't seen it yet.
No, okay. Well, I won't tell you what
happens. Don't give away the ending.
But my sympathies are totally with Wolf.
Wolf,
yeah,
as he's known.
Well, I've forgotten what they call him now. But Oscar, somebody was it?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
But anyway, it was a great film and full of the
very long, isn't it?
It's 3 hours.
You must have got through a lot of pick and mix for that one.
I did actually. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had the old pick and mix. But
for 3 hours.
Yeah,
with 3 hours worth of pick and mix, you must have had 3 bags.
No, I only had the one bag and just occasionally nibbled at them. But the point of my story is the excesses in it remind me very much of some of the things you and I might have got up to in the 80s in New York, because in fact that's when it was set.
Yeah,
it was set in the 80s in New York.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, people have been going around in London, sort of dressing up as these guys, the sort of the yuppies from the 80s, and like reenacting it in a way. Yeah, because apparently it's been a real hit and people have loved it. And the people in the city have been talking to various papers and giving interviews and stuff, saying, some of that has never gone away. It's not quite as over the top as it used to be, but people are still driving around in Porsches and doing too many drugs and working all sorts of weird hours.
I mean, it's spectacular stuff, and the levels of excessive spending and all that kind of stuff, and the sort of rewards that you got, for achieving targets and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's astonishing.
Well, I knew people that worked in Wall Street who had the company owned its own golf course in up in Connecticut, and it was a private golf course only for members of the company.
Incredible.
And they could only take their own people there. And also, a friend of mine had a job where he worked for this firm, and it was Drexel, before they went bust, Drexel Burnham Lambert, and they used to fly 8 of the top executives every year over in a private plane to Scotland just to play St Andrews and Carnoustie and all those golf courses for a week, because they said actually it's cheaper than flying them all first class.
I see. Yeah. Well, this guy. to impress a woman who wants to marry, buys a yacht, named it after her.
Right.
And it's just spectacular, you know, the opulence and the lavishness. And what the really great scenes are all about is when the FBI get onto them, right, and they think they can solve everything with money. But these guys are like, what did they call the Elliot Ness mob? The Untouchables, right?
Yeah.
And these guys are like those, you know what I mean? And then it's a war of attrition between the two of them. It's a fantastic film. Really, really great.
Well, don't
film.
give too much of the
No,
plot,
I
by the
won't
way,
give too much of it
because
away.
That wouldn't be very good.
No.
But, I mean, I'll tell you what was interesting. I mean, talking about money being spent, I was watching a report on the news the other night, and they were saying for a long time they've had this kind of misconception and misunderstanding of exactly how money is being spent in this country when we're supposed to all have no money, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what they said it was? It's people getting all these checks from the PPI payouts from the banks.
Right.
So many people have got like $2,000 here, $3,000
Really?
there from misspent
Yes,
PPI
yes.
insurance, and they've gone down to those companies who have said, we'll get your money back off the bank. The banks have paid out billions of money, billions
I know
of
they
pounds,
have,
in this, right?
yeah.
But seemingly,
And that's coming
apparently-
back into the economy.
Well, one of the reasons why they think the economy is going so well is because people are taking these checks and just putting them down on deposits for a new car,
Golly.
or going out and buying a new holiday.
Have you got any of those?
No, because it's one of those things. I kind of have got a reasonable relationship with my bank account, and I don't think I was ever sold it, but I asked the question once, and they said no, we never sold you any of that.
Well,
And I kind of had to believe them.
I've had some letters from people saying, claim your PPI
Right.
and all this kind of stuff, but they're very random.
Yeah, they are.
They
They send those to everyone.
Yeah, they don't specify it was that or that and that. They say, fill in this questionnaire and we'll pursue it for you and all that. But actually, all the time you see numbers advertised, mate, you can just pick up the phone,
Yeah.
ring and say, this is my name, this is my address. Did
Yeah.
I ever... Because I can't ever remember. PPI is what? Protection payments?
It's payment protection insurance. So if you took out a loan,
Yeah.
which wasn't normally a mortgage, but it was more likely to be like a consumer-based loan. So if you took a loan out for a few grand to buy a car or something like that, they would go. I don't know why.
I never had loans like that. I
don't think I ever did either. And they never gave it to you for an overdraft.
I think we were quite lucky actually. In our days in Fleet Street, we had company cars, didn't we?
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have needed to go and borrow for a car.
No.
So it must have been much smaller
There
items
were
as
some
well.
funny stories as well, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Much
You can do
smaller.
anything you like with a company car, you know that.
Oh yeah, including leaving it outside an airport, literally. No,
And then
literally
getting somebody to go and collect it.
literally at the entrance because you're so late for your flight, you don't
Yeah.
want to miss it. So on one occasion, I sped up to Heathrow because I had to get this flight to Paris, and I know there's lots of flights to Paris, but the plane I was getting
You
on
should
with-
have gone from Biggin Hill.
well, I should have gone from Biggin Hill, but the person who I was tracking was on this plane, so I had to get on that plane.
Right.
And I roared up to Heathrow, and Terminal 5 wasn't around in those days, so it must have been like Terminal 1 or 2 for a short-haul flight.
Yeah.
And I literally stopped outside the entrance at Terminal 1, I got out of the car so fast, left the engine running, and I dashed into the terminal, right, sprinted through the terminal.
If you did that nowadays, you'd be shot.
Yeah, you would, yeah. And got to the gate just as they were closing it and dived across the barrier into the plane. yeah.
Oh, no, it's incredible what
And
we used to go
the car was impounded, and but I didn't care, didn't
because
matter.
It was a company car.
It wasn't my car.
That's
yeah.
exactly right. Mike Parry will be back with us on Thursday night.